If you've clicked on this video, chances are you've seen the new Apple short film Vertical Cinema, directed by Damien Chazelle. If you haven't, then I'd certainly recommend you check it out because it's quite interesting and it's only like 10 minutes. What I really wanted to talk about when dissecting this short are the pros and cons of the vertical format and how that is evidenced through this short. First things first, I think many will agree with me when I say that to shoot a film vertically is rather sacrilegious, and in my personal opinion, kind of stupid and uncalled for. I mean, why would you do this when you can do this? Anyways, I went into this rather skeptical, because to have a film be shot on an iPhone, especially vertically, can be considered an attention-seeking gimmick to a lot of us more conservative film fans. Asking us to watch and enjoy a film shot like this is like asking Quentin Tarantino to make an entire film shot digitally. It's probably not going to happen. But I have to say that after watching Vertical Cinema, I was rather impressed. This might be due to the fact that Damien Chazelle is one of, if not my favorite director. I've talked about Whiplash in like half the videos I've done on the bloody channel, and there's a very good reason I've yet to go in depth about La La Land. I love those two films so very much. However, Vertical Cinema was actually not the only thing Damien Chazelle directed this year. He actually directed 2 episodes of a Netflix show called The Eddy, which was rather disappointing. It was not nearly as inspired or dynamic as his other works, so I was very much looking forward to seeing what he would do with this particular short, especially since his next feature film Babylon is coming out next year, and Babylon will also be a film about films. So what did I like about Vertical Cinema? Well, I think the story and performances were quite good. The main actor who plays the stunt double was pretty great and sold the physical and emotional side of the character very well. I love that Chazelle is in many ways using this as a testing ground for some of the stuff he might be doing in Babylon, as he really goes through many different eras and genres of cinema in this 9-minute short. So we get quite a bit of variety in such a short period of time, and each set piece in each genre is executed rather well, but we'll talk about that more in just a little bit. From an audience's point of view though, my favorite thing about this short is how little dialogue there is. As someone who watches and makes a lot of shorts, one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes there can be so much dialogue that you only get that and no real visual flair. And it begins to feel like just a short with people just talking as opposed to a more cinematic experience. And aside from the big tall elephant of an aspect ratio in the room, Vertical Cinema does feel rather cinematic, and it's due to how much they let the visuals and the editing and the music carry the piece. The dialogue takes a back seat, and I really admire the visual storytelling on display here. So let us talk about those visuals. If you are to shoot a film on vertical, there has to be a really good reason behind that. The visuals really do need to take advantage of the format, otherwise there's no real point. So one of the things that this short does so well, in my opinion, is that a large majority of the shots do really take full advantage of the taller format, right down to the way each scene is designed. As a quick illustration of what I mean, around this time last year I went to America, I went to LA, and I went to New York. When I went to LA, I took a number of photos, most of which were taken horizontally, as I usually do, because instinctively I felt that that was more appropriate. LA as a city is very sprawling and wide, wider than it is tall, so the format fits the look of that city. New York, on the other hand, is taller than it is wide. It is dense, it is compact, and so I felt that taking photos vertically would do that city more justice, because these tall skyscrapers were really built into the identity of the iconic island of Manhattan. And I think that this idea of complementing a certain visual motif is definitely present in Vertical Cinema. If you look at the locations chosen and the production design, along with the compositions of each shot, you'll notice that they fit so perfectly with the format. All the sets are built with height being prioritized over width, as we see here. Notice how often they use stairs and tall buildings, because it shows the height. And one really cool thing is the way they use frames within frames. Now this is obviously a reference to the iconic shot from The Searchers, but in this one, on an instinctive level, it kind of feels like it fits a little better. Look at this, for example. You can't get this kind of perfect head-to-toe composition with any other format. If you try to get that wide on anamorphic, then there would be loads of space on the left and right sides of the screen. Now, we've seen how cool that can look, but what I'm trying to say is that they're really going for specific kinds of shots that you can only achieve with this format. Like this one, for example. You can't do this normally. This is a really intentionally designed mirror that once again is taller than it is wide, even down to the most minute details, like how this case opens up to fill the entire screen from top to bottom. I also love how beautiful the colors and the lighting are. There are some obvious nods to Vertigo, Le Samurai, North by Northwest, but it just shows that if you have a brilliant cinematographer like Linus Sandgren who actually knows what he's doing, you can achieve a cinematic look on an iPhone. That being said, however, by far the biggest visual fault in this short are the mediums and the close-ups of the people. It just doesn't look right. I mean, when you do close-ups of people, sometimes the top or bottom of their faces can get cut off. That's fine, we've been doing it since the beginning basically, but this just doesn't look right. It's been made very clear by this short that vertical is not suited to the human face. It just isn't. 4:3 looks amazing on the face. Vertical, not so much. A lot of the two shots and close-ups just look a bit awkward and out of place. I'm sure the filmmakers felt this way as well. A lot of the group shots are framed quite nicely, but I mean, this just doesn't look right, does it? So really, I think the idea of shooting a film on vertical is interesting and ambitious, but ultimately I think it just boils down to the fact that it doesn't have the same inherent cinematic quality. If done half-heartedly, it can look really bad, and some compositions just don't work. I think it would be very hard for anyone to sit through an entire film shot this way, and let's be honest, a feature-length version of something like this would not have the same kind of stylistic diversity in such a short amount of time as The Stuntman. So as much as I admire this particular piece, I think the idea of a vertically shot film is not necessary, and I think if done wrong by the masses, would only lead us further away from the more traditional essences of cinema. But still, it's a great short though.